Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Burnt Pancakes podcast. If you are new here, I am so glad you found this little corner of mom life where we can be honest, laugh, and sometimes talk about the chaos of motherhood. I'm your host, Katie Fensky, and I remind moms that everyone burns their first pancake. Now, today's episode is going to be, I guess, a little different than what we usually do. I've had a lot of new listeners and followers lately. And recently, I was talking to a friend who is interested in starting her own podcast, and I was giving her some pointers and tips and background on, how I did this. So I thought it'd be fun to just pull back the curtain and give you a little behind the scenes tour of how this podcast actually came to happen. So I want to tell you where the idea came from, the steps I took to actually get it on the air, and kind of what the day to day workload is for putting out a podcast. Let's start first with why the podcast and where this idea came from. So, I want to rewind back to the very beginning when I didn't even have a podcast yet. So, like many of you, as a first time mom, motherhood was a huge adjustment for me. And I can honestly say I felt like a complete failure most days. I did what most of you did and just kind of plugged along, surviving each day, like one day at a time. But I started realizing, kind of as the years went on, there were a few things that really helped me along the way and kind of got me through those early days of motherhood. So, two of them were joining mom groups. When I had Ronan, we were living in LA and the it just like happened one day that I was walking Ronan and I met a neighbor who was kind of the director or leader of it was called Mom's Club, Moms Offering Mom Support. And even though it was like so awkward, you know how it is, you meet this new mom and you're like, "Oh yeah, like your group sounds so fun. Here's my number." And then you're thinking to yourself like, oh my gosh, am I going to actually have to get in touch with her? But I was, I think, so desperate for connection and help that I did it. I joined this mom's group and they offered age level meetups. So, like moms of infants and moms of toddlers. And one of the things they did was like a coffee date at like different moms' houses. So, like you sign up to host a coffee date. You bring your little one with you, you have coffee, you let them kind of lay around, crawl around, however old they were, and you connect. Um, and I think having joined that group after feeling so isolated and alone in LA, because I was so far from my friends, from my family, that really helped. And I remember looking back, my husband said one day, "I'm so proud of you for joining that." And I'm like, I am too, because it was very awkward. It was very uncomfortable to show up at this stranger's house, bringing my baby. Like, I'm gonna have to feed him while I'm here. This is so awkward. What if he cries? But I did it, and that became really a lifesaver for me. Um, the other group that I had joined was after we moved to Orange County and I was near some more of my friends. One of my friends was kind of one of the coordinators of, they called it Bloom, which is, I think most of you would think of it as MOPS, Moms of Preschoolers. So just a local church that had a group once a week. You could leave your kids with the little childcare, spend an hour listening to a speaker, connecting with moms. Ugh, it was another godsend. I would look forward to Tuesday mornings. But both those experiences really shed light on the fact that I needed community if I wanted to not just survive being a mom, but really, truly enjoy it. I loved how honest these moms were, the honesty they brought, and the connections that I made with them. The third thing that really helped me get through motherhood in those early years was podcasts. So I can remember, I don't really remember when I first started listening to podcasts, but I do specifically remember that when Maverick was a baby, he would wake up the crack of dawn, like so early. And I knew if I stayed in the house with him, he would wake up the other two boys and then I would have kids up at like 5:30. So I would quickly throw them in the stroller and we go for these early morning walks so that we wouldn't wake up the rest of the house. Now, as annoyed as I was that I had to be up that early, I actually started looking forward to those walks because I could put a podcast on and it helped me feel connected to other moms. So at the time I was listening to Coffee and Crumbs podcast. It was wonderful. At the time it was three moms and they just talked about mom life. They talked about how to get kids ready for school in the morning, um, what's going on in their day-to-day lives. They were so relatable and it just felt like they were talking right to me. I just remember just thinking like I just feel connected. Um, it really was like having friends in my ears. So one of their hosts went on, her name was Indiana Adams. She went on to start her own podcast called Today by the Way. And I looked it up and I don't think it's available anymore. I'm so sad because they were super short. They were like 15-minute episodes. They were just funny. They made me laugh. And because she was a mom talking about mom life, it just really helped start my day off right. So I learned early on that a crucial point of motherhood is that feeling of connection and normalcy. Just knowing that you're not alone on this journey and that we're all just trying to figure this thing out, even when there are bumps along the way, even when you're making mistakes, we're all doing it together. So, fast forward to 2001. I had three kids and work was feeling very overwhelming for me. I was kind of torn between the desire to just be a mom and that need to provide for my family. Like I had to work. So at the time I was working as a teacher for an independent study charter school. So I was not in the classroom. And I did have a more flexible schedule, but I was still needing to figure out childcare 3 days a week, who's going to pick up Jet from preschool, what events and play dates I was going to have to miss because I had a work meeting. And one night that spring, I got an email saying that the following school year they were considering having teachers teach an online lesson each day at 9 o'clock. And I read that email and I just instantly felt crushed because that was the time that Jet had to be dropped off for preschool. And it hit me that if they went ahead with that, I would not be able to bring Jet to preschool. Now, to many people, they would think, okay, well, that's not a big deal. Like, even my husband said, well, I'll take him or we can get your mom to do it. But for me, it was like a big aha, like red flag. Like, I'm his mom. I want to be the one doing it. Like, yes, he's the child, but this is also my experience too. And I wanted to be the mom that could be there at drop off. Um, so at that point, I knew in my heart that my desire to be home with my kids couldn't be ignored. One night, I was like venting to my husband about my job, and he asked me this simple question. And he said, well, if you didn't teach, what would you want to be doing? And it it's very interesting because like I'm normally like let me think about it. I don't know. I can't decide, but I just instantly blurted out, I want to talk to moms and I want to be helping them. That was it. I just said, I want to talk to moms and I want to help them. I don't really know at the time what it meant or how that would work, but it was just like my heart coming out, like just blurting it out. And he just said, okay. And we left it at that. But that idea kind of stewed in my brain for weeks. Um, and I think this is where like that divine intervention came into play because I just kept getting these little signs along the way, these little breadcrumbs about here's your next step. This is how you should proceed. And it was just like little random things like, searching through Instagram and I get oh, how to start a blog. And I'm like, I didn't even think about that. But the girl who had a post about how to start a blog, the name of her website was Katie Did What. And I'm like, my name's Katie and I'm looking to do something. It's just like little things. So the first thing I did was decide to start a blog. This did take me months and it took a lot of Googling, like how to do this, how to do that. It was a lot of learning as I went. But in the summer of 2021, I published my website, Burnt Pancakes, and changed my Instagram handle and decided to just get on social media and talk more about mom life. Um, I posted some blog posts that were just stories from the heart about what it was like going back to work after maternity leave and um, kind of like the true feelings I had about some picture perfect posts that I had put up on social media that, they looked perfect, but this is what was really going on when those pictures were being taken. I also put up stuff about like fun Halloween treats and like birthday cake decorations that are simple to do, just stuff that I thought moms could use. I loved that creative outlet it provided for me. So at this time, I was still working at the independent charter school, but it really energized my creative outlet for me, and it was just fun to do. Now, in the spring of 2022, so that was like almost a year later, um, that's when I started adding like potty training tips and videos to YouTube. And I started a different Instagram account where I just did potty training stuff. And I was able to get my potty training consultant gig, kind of like side gig, going to the point that at the end of that school year, I took the huge leap and I quit my job. Now, looking back, it's like, okay, you quit your job, but it was not an easy decision. I had so much anxiety about it. My husband and I sat down and like looked at the budget, which I hate doing. I hate talking about money, but we decided it was safe to do. And I just like sometimes you just have to follow your gut. And my gut was saying it's time to leave. Like, this is the next step you have to take. Now, have there been moments along the way where I questioned this decision? 100%. Like, it was very, very nice having that teacher paycheck. And I definitely felt more secure making my own money. The potty training thing, like, yes, that provides me with money, but it's not the same as having a teacher paycheck. But then I look back and I think on those days that I can help my boys in the classroom, or when my son wakes up sick and I don't have to worry about canceling my work meetings so that he can stay home with me, that is worth every penny that I could have been making teaching right now. So in the fall of 2023, so I've been working as a potty train consultant. I'm continuing my blog. At that point, I started a mastermind, and I'm going to give a big shout out to Stephanie Keith from the Law of Attraction Tribe because she brought together this amazing group of women. We were all moms, kind of like on the similar path of just wanting to follow our passions. And she was like the ringleader of like, here's how to do it. This is what you can do, and really inspired us. So in this group is where I shared the part of my dream of helping moms and talking to them was that I thought I wanted to start my own podcast. The idea had actually come to me in 2021 when I started the blog. I was like, I'm going to start the blog, but I'd love to start a podcast. And it really was 2 years later that I had the nerve to even say it out loud to other people that I wanted to start a podcast. So between the mastermind and just feeling the support from those women and I took Jenna Kutcher's How to Start a Podcast course. And that kind of just walked through step by step. These are the things you need to do to start a podcast. I found the courage to just jump in and do it. So in 2023, on March 17th, I picked a Friday and I felt like that felt like a lucky day. The first episode of Burnt Pancakes Momversation hit the air. So most of you know the story of why it is called Burnt Pancakes. The phrase everyone burns their first pancake was shared with me by my very best friend, Megan. After I had had a meltdown at her house one afternoon when Ronan had another potty training accident, she just turned to me and was like, don't worry, Katie, everyone burns their first pancake. And just hearing that, I felt so relieved, like, oh God, she gets it. I don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to get it right the first time. I'm okay. So that was like the exact message I wanted to share in my Momversations. I wanted real moms coming on to share real stories. And I wanted moms to laugh with me and cry with me and nod their head like, yes, I agree with you. Me too. So it just only seemed right that that was the title of the podcast. Okay, so the nuts and bolts of recording and equipment and how I actually got it started and what I use. So, how do I make things actually happen? I record all of my episodes on Zoom. Now, I chose that simply because I was already using Zoom for my potty training consultations, and you can just record straight onto your computer. It was just easy to upload. Um, so I record on Zoom. If I do have an in-person recording, I have a camera and the equipment to do that, but it actually is pretty simple just to do it on Zoom. And as of late, most of my guests have all been distance, like they don't live here in Orange County where I am. And I've been doing a lot more solo episodes, so it just works doing it on Zoom. So I record on Zoom, and my husband is pretty techie. He majored in film, so he kind of like got me going on here's something you can use for editing. Here are the microphones that would work really well. So these microphones came straight off of Amazon. I have a light straight off of Amazon. So nothing fancy. I just have my laptop here. I plug in my microphone and hit record on Zoom. Then from there, after I save the raw recording to my computer, I use Adobe Premiere Rush. That just worked for us because it was a fairly affordable option to edit. I didn't need anything too fancy. I throw it in that and try and cut out any of the dead air. Like if I have to pause for a little bit, I'll try and cut that out. Um, I made an intro on Canva. So I have my little intro. I got my music. It was free off of YouTube Music. So I found a song I liked way back in the day, still using that song. So I add that to the beginning. I throw in my intro. I upload the raw, you know, first round recording and then upload it to my computer. So it's pretty basic. I'm sure other podcasts are way more sophisticated, but it's really beginner friendly. It's one of those things like, if I can do it, any of you can do it. If I can learn how to do this stuff, I'm a mom in my 40s. I've never taken any video editing lessons. If I can do it, you can do it as well. Okay, one other thing I was going to mention was the reason that I'm doing video as opposed to just audio podcasts is because I already had a YouTube channel. So I figured I might as well just put my episodes up since I'm already recording them. I might as well just put that up on YouTube also. I don't get as many views as I do downloads from, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, but it's just another avenue to get mom listeners. So I have the video. When I save it as a video, I'll just extract the audio, and that's what I upload each week for the podcast, the audio podcasts. Um, Part of the decision I made when I was like in the beginning stages of the podcast was which host to use. So there are different hosts that will like distribute your podcast to all of the other like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of the different apps that you can use to listen to them. So there were a few that I looked into, but I ended up choosing one called Buzzsprout simply because everyone who left reviews about it said it was the most beginner friendly. And again, as a mom in my 40s trying to figure out this whole tech thing, I'm like, let's just pick the most simple, easy thing to use. And I'm when I'm telling you it was easy and beginner friendly, I went from I think I had recorded my trailer, just like my 2 minute sample, like this is what my episode, my podcast is about. I recorded that and then thought, okay, let's just try putting it on Buzzsprout, see how it is. It took me less than 30 minutes to enter all the information, upload that trailer, and have it all set up and ready to go. Like, okay, your podcast is ready to publish. So here I am thinking it had taken me 2 years to get this thing started and 30 minutes to actually just put it up there and do it. So Buzzsprout made it really easy. I've never really thought about changing because I can literally upload an episode. I think I get like maybe 2 or 3 hours of uploads per month. So like if I have a bunch of them batched saved, sometimes I have to wait until I have the next month of credits to upload more. But that's been plenty for me. And I just upload it. I add in my show notes, I add in my title, any little tags that I need, and schedule it for when it's going to come out. And boom, they do it all for you. So if you are thinking about starting a podcast, Buzzsprout, I would recommend. Now, when I tell people I have a podcast, the first question most people say is, "Oh, do you get paid to do it?" And it's always a little awkward because I don't know, coming from like the when I was working and people would say, "What do you do?" And you'd say, "I'm a teacher." And that pretty much answered the question. Now, when people say, "Oh, what do you do?" And you go, "Oh, I have a podcast." And they go, "Oh, do you make money from the podcast?" It's always awkward and hard to talk about. So, have I started making money from the podcast? Not really. That's the honest truth. I don't get paid to do the podcast. I have had a few sponsors for some episodes in the past, which has been amazing, where I would either get free products in exchange for putting an ad up or like an affiliate code where I can get commission when someone purchases from them. I have been very hesitant to accept more sponsorships because I only want to work with brands that I actually use and I actually do love. So there have been more sponsors that have reached out to me about doing ads, um, but I have turned them down because number one, it has to be something that I feel like my community actually wants to hear about and want. Like one time, someone sent me about like gummies and like this new beauty care thing. And I'm like, it's not something I'm into. So that's not something I want to promote on my podcast. So do I think there is a chance to make money from the podcast? Absolutely. I feel like I need to self promote more. I have my own potty training course and my own like coaching business for potty training. I need to promote that more on the podcast, but um, it's coming. It's coming along, and I think I just need to keep chipping away and exploring other ways to grow the income. But um, if you do have a product that you feel like you would like to promote, I am happy to hear from you and try out your product. But always know that if I am promoting something on my podcast, it's because I truly believe in it. I also part of me just wants to find ways to make money from something I've created, not necessarily like promoting other people's things. So that's always been kind of in the back of my head. So at this time, I'm not making a ton of money off the podcast, but I am hoping that I am reaching moms who need to hear this message. And from there, I know something is going to work out. Let's talk a little bit about guests and how I book my guests. At the very beginning, I mostly had on friends or moms I knew in my own life. And I reached out to them and I was like, "You'd be great. I want you to share your story." I mean, my very first guest was my best friend, Megan. And we just talked about mom fails. It was so fun. I just love talking to moms. Like, I felt like one thing I really enjoyed was showing up at a park, meeting a new mom, chit-chatting, and just having a good time. That filled my cup. So if I could turn that into a podcast, why not? So at the beginning, it was mostly people I knew. And then as the podcast started to grow, I either would get contacts like through my email of people who were interested in coming on, or I used, there's something called podcastguests.com. And I was able to just like put up the description of my podcast and say, if you feel like you would be um, a good guest for this podcast, fill out this form. So from that, I got a bunch of responses. Not all of them were good fits, but a lot of them were like, "Oh, you are someone who would like to talk about baby registries. Great. Oh, another mom on here wanted to talk about perimenopause. Yes, please come on. So I got an array of guests, but they all had topics that I thought were relatable and interesting to me. So I was able to book them. And I just have a Calendly link. So Calendly is a system that you can just put in your availability and they sign up for a date that works for them. So I don't have to go back and forth through emails like, does this day work for you? Does that? I just literally send them my calendar. They pick a date that works for them. And then when they submit that date, it sends them a Zoom link, it sends me a Zoom link, and it automatically puts it on my calendar for me. So if you're interested in Calendly, take a look. That was something my cousin brought my attention to. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you should get Calendly. Like it'll automate everything for you." And it has been wonderful. So, um, over the last 2+ years, I have had some amazing guests, some that like really stand out as meaningful conversations that I've had. I actually, Tanya Valentine is a guest I had on, gosh, maybe over a year ago, and she and I are still in touch. We do weekly, or not weekly, monthly Zoom coffee dates just to check in with each other, see how we're doing. So I feel like through the process of having guests on, I have made some great friends. Some of my best episodes have been so the mom who came on to talk about baby registries. That was a great episode. I had a guest come on and talk about sex and marriage when you have kids. That episode did really, really well. Um, Another guest came on and talked about one about perimenopause. That episode did really well. So it's kind of like hit or miss. Like I don't really know one specific formula for which guests were going to be great. It's just a topic that moms are interested in. I would say the most well-known guest that I had was Tamron Hall. That's one that a lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe like I know her. She was on your podcast." But it was just she had a book coming out and her publicist was like, "Hey, I think she'd be great. Here are the topics that she would cover. Would you like to have her on?" Amazing. Yes. So it's kind of been me reaching out to people, like some people I'll see on social media and be like, "Oh my gosh, you seem like you'd be great to talk to." Like recently, I had on the ladies from Cultivate Teens, just three counselors and moms who are kind of guiding other parents through the whole teen years. They were someone I found on Instagram, was following them, and I'm like, "I need you to have you come on." So kind of different things, but I've been trying to throw in more solo podcasts as well, just because if I don't have a guest lined up, it's helpful to just do a solo episode. But I also want to make sure that it's not always the guest voice that are making this podcast. I also want you guys to all hear my voice too through this, because there have been some guests I will say that um, some of their points of views were kind of a little different than mine, and I try to let them just share everything and listen. I try not to interrupt and voice my own opinion sometimes, but I do. Um, but I I think it's important for us to hear from other moms and then for me to also share my life and my stories as well on this podcast. So let's talk about what work goes into a weekly episode. So, a weekly episode includes recording and editing the podcast. So, whether it's a solo podcast or with a guest, again, I record on Zoom, I can upload it and edit it. When I first started doing it, it took me hours and hours. I have definitely gotten a lot more proficient at it and I can edit pretty quickly. Takes a while to render. So taking it from the Adobe and saving it onto my computer can take like an hour and a half. The computer just does its thing. I have a very old computer and I'm like, please last me. Don't die on me because I need you. But I think part of the reason is because my computer's older. But I upload it, I render it, and then from there I can upload it on YouTube. I add the audio to Buzzsprout, which doesn't take that long anymore. I will totally admit that I have been using AI to help me write my show notes and captions for some Instagram reels just because it saves me time. Mom life is busy and I need to squeeze out as much time as I can. So if they can help me with my show notes, I do that as well. I kind of made it my rule to always send out an email newsletter about that episode once a week. So my podcasts come out every Friday. So the podcast comes out, I send out an email sharing with whoever's on my newsletter email list about that episode. So if you're not on that email list and you'd like to, I'll include that link in the show notes. Um, I use MailChimp as my email distributor. Why I picked that, I don't know. Back in 2022, I guess, 2021, when I was getting my blog up and running, that was the one that I watched a YouTube video on and said, okay, I think it's gonna it's gonna work for me. So it helps me collect emails. It collect email addresses and then I can use that to send out newsletters. So like if you sign up for my chore chart, it saves your email so that I can now have you in my contacts and let you know and update you on things that I have. I also each week will make a video clip of the episode. I like that because if I do have a guest on, I want to make sure I'm sharing, that they came on and tagging them in all my things. So I'll make the video clip on Adobe Premiere and then kind of finish it up and make it look cuter on Canva. So that is a little extra time, but I've also gotten more proficient about it. And I've started just using like a template that I have on Canva already made. So it's easier to just kind of throw the clip in. But I make those myself. I know a lot of people use, instead of Zoom, they use something called Riverside. A lot of podcasters will use that. I did not go that route because I was already paying for Zoom and I just didn't need to look into something else. But I've heard, I think Riverside helps you make your clips by yourself. But for me, it's just a couple minutes of going through the episode, picking out what I want to share and doing that. So YouTube short and Instagram reel, I'll put out one of those at least once a week. And that's kind of what goes into each episode. So podcast stats, where are we now? My podcast has been steadily growing. Um, I know there are other big podcasts that get millions of downloads a week, and it does sometimes get overwhelming to see, oh my gosh, my little podcast is still like way down here. But I'm trying not to look at the charts and, compare myself to other people. I'm just trying to compare myself to my own self. So where I was when I first started and where I am 2 years later. And I can honestly say that each month, each year, I am steadily growing. So just to be totally transparent and honest with everyone, you may be curious, you may not. I have almost 13,000 total downloads, and I average about 150 downloads per week. I had one day last week, don't know why or what. It's just this big blip on the graph, but I had over 280 people listen in one day to the episode. So I'm not sure if someone put it up on Instagram like, "Hey, here's an episode you should listen to," and gave the link. I don't know. I don't know why all of a sudden it just boomed one day, and I can't even figure out what episode it was that shot up, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Like, I'm really hoping that someone heard an episode that really resonated with them and they shared it. Um, but on average, it's about 150 a week. I had a goal to hit 200 downloads a week, and I hit that a couple weeks ago. So now my next goal, like that last week was an anomaly because I had 800 that week. But my next goal is to steadily get about 500 downloads per week. I had my best month last month. So in my eyes, I'm like, if I am just continuing to get more ears listening to this, the better. That means my message is resonating. Other other moms are connecting. Other moms are appreciating the words that I'm sharing. So that's all I can do. I had one sponsor reach out to me once, and she was telling me that my podcast is like designated as quote unquote a smaller podcast. She's like, I don't mean this in a mean way, but we like calculate, how much we're going to give someone or what products we give based on your numbers. And she was like, yours is considered smaller because it gets less than 10,000 downloads an episode. And I'm like, okay, should I tell her I am not there yet? No, absolutely not. I didn't tell her that. I just said, wow, I'd love to hear more about what you're offering. But anyways, like I no need to compare. I just want to continue to see the podcast growing. Okay, let's talk about some of the pluses and minuses or positive and negatives of having your own podcast. So, to be real for a second, there are definitely some things I absolutely love about the podcast. And there are some things that are challenging about running your own podcast. So, first, the positives. I love connecting with other moms. So, whether it's me just sharing my own solo podcast and my own thoughts on motherhood, thinking that it might reach others, love that. I love having conversations about motherhood and laughing with other moms. So having guests on has been like just it fills my cup. I remember one day my husband was working from home and I told him, "Hey, I'm going to be recording an episode, try not to slam any doors." But he asked me later like, "How'd it go?" And I left the episode just feeling like, oh my gosh, like I just loved talking to this mom. I loved everything she had to say. And I just came out of the recording, out of the episode, just feeling light. And I just, it just felt good talking to another mom. So that has been great. It's been great feeling like we are building a community here, something bigger than just, hey, I'm at home recording my podcast. You know, I think more and more I am seeing moms opening up about the pressures of motherhood, not feeling bad about saying I need help. And I'm hoping part of my podcast is a reason for that. Some of the negatives of having a podcast is that I'm doing it all myself. And working solo can not only just be a lot, but it can feel lonely at times. It's a grind to keep producing content every week. Like that is my goal is every week to put out a podcast. Um, Sometimes it feels like you're just talking to a void, but I know that it is meaningful. I do see other women who have podcasts where it's like the two of them are co-hosts, and I sometimes envy that. Like, oh, how great would it be to just work with another mom and to be able to bounce ideas off? Because for me, sometimes I have ideas and then I just second guess everything. Or, do you like this post? Should I use a different font or do you like this font? For me, it's like I'm the one making the decision and it's all on me. I know other people have podcast editors, so you just do the fun part of recording, and then someone else does all the back leg stuff, the busy stuff. But at this time, I am able to handle the workload. I don't mind editing. It's fine. It's like that creative side of you getting out. But sometimes I do wish there was another person that I could like bounce ideas off of and do this together with. But who knows? That may be in the future. I don't know. Like, I just want to keep seeing where this is going to go. But I do feel like even when some of the weeks feel like a grind, like, oh my gosh, I don't have an episode coming out next week. When am I going to record? What's it going to be about? I need to come up with a topic. Um, it feels so fulfilling. I really do enjoy that I do this. I think it matters. I think it's um, not only meaningful for me, but I really, even though like a podcast is harder to get a response from your listeners because it's not like on Instagram where you can just see how many likes you get or how many comments, I do see that I am consistently getting, 150 downloads a week. That means there are people who are probably coming back and listening each week. So if that is you, I love you. I appreciate that. And even though we are not like directly talking to each other, I really hope that I am that friend in your ears while you're walking your little baby who is getting up at 5 in the morning. So, looking ahead for the future, I just want to continue to grow the podcast. I feel like the last couple months I've been experimenting more with solo podcasts and seeing how those do. You always put out an episode thinking like there are times where I was like, oh, this episode's gonna kill it. I know everyone's gonna listen. Then I'm like, not many people listen to that one. Or like I will just do a random one and then I'm like, oh my God, that one like took off. And I don't know if it's the SEO and the words I'm putting in the show notes. I don't really know what it is, but I just want to keep experimenting, keep you laughing, keep keep putting out things that are relatable and growing this community. I mean, part of a dream I've had is somehow to turn Burnt Pancakes into like a mom's club or even like weekly meetups, whether it's on Zoom or like in person. I don't know. I do have dreams for it. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but I just feel like this message is too important to not want to share it more. So, oh, one last thing that I was going to say, I probably should have put this in the beginning, but part of the reason why I didn't start sooner was because I knew it had to be a video podcast and I just didn't feel like I had the look. Like, a lot of people who have a video podcast have like this cute little lounge area with their chairs and they're this. And I just knew like I couldn't do it. Like right now I'm in our spare bedroom and I couldn't just do it with all of our boxes behind us. So I created this background. So for those of you who are watching the video version, or if you see a clip on Instagram, you will see my like picture collage behind me. A lot of people ask about that, and it was just so fun to make. So behind me is the closet in our spare bedroom. And I decided I just needed something cute behind me. Like the colors of the podcast are more like pinks and stuff. So I just found on Canva a bunch of cute, girly, motherhood related pictures in the pink theme. I think I put a filter on them with one color that was like my brand color. And I printed off a ton of these pictures and then I made this picture collage behind me, which I think is so cute, adorable. Like if you go back and look at a lot of the pictures, they are mom related, girly, um, kind of themed. So that's the idea behind that. And I felt like once I got those closet doors covered, I felt a little bit more ready to be like, okay, I think I can push play and start recording on this. So that's the story behind the collage behind me. Anyways, those are the behind the scenes look at Burnt Pancakes. I hope that giving you a peek inside why and how I started the podcast kind of gives you a glimpse into my life. If you are interested in starting a podcast or just want someone to talk to about it, because I know how it feels to just like do it all alone, I would be happy to chat with any of you. So feel free to email me. My email is katie@burntpancakes.com. If you ever have any comments or want to share something or get some tips, like I'm a real mom here. I love connecting with other moms, so I'd be happy to share that with you. So until next week's Momversation, I want to remind you that everyone burns their first pancake, so just keep flipping.